before we begin the sermon, I just want you to notice your breathing. Just notice it. You've been breathing the whole time. Through the prelude and through opening words, through our music, right? You've been breathing without thinking about it, which is both a miracle, especially for me right now, and is the danger of being human. Because we can forget doing the most essential thing, breathing. And yet, this is where readiness begins. In the body that carries you, in the breath that sustains you. We're living in a time that's asking us to get ready. You feel it? I certainly do. And we don't have to name every specific fear out loud to know many of us carry this new kind of vigilance, this kind of weariness. Some of us afraid for ourselves, some for our neighbors or our students, our congregation members and friends, and the stranger that we have never met, but we are no less responsible for. But here's what I want you to know about fear. It makes you want to hold your breath. Fear says, brace yourself and tighten up, get smaller, and don't make a sound. But we're a people of faith, and our faith says something different. Our faith says, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. So let's talk about what it really means to get ready. Not for a single crisis, not for one moment of heroicism, but for the long haul. For sustaining what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now. Because that doesn't end when the cameras leave and when we get tired. Getting ready means knowing some very practical things. And although we're taught that in a sermon you really don't teach during a sermon, we're going to teach during this sermon as well as ground that in our spiritual practices. Because knowing of a kind of knowledge can keep someone safe. It can keep families together, and it can turn panic into a grounded action. It means you need to know your rights. Not in that abstract civics class kind of way, but in the way that matters when someone's at your door. When someone asks you a question you don't have the answer to. When you have 30 seconds to decide what to say or to keep silent. It means knowing that you have the right to keep silent. That you don't have to open the door without a warrant. That am I free to go is a complete sentence. That you can document on your phone what is happening. That you're not powerless, even when power is trying to convince you that you are. So when you came in this morning, you were handed 3 red cards. These cards are in many of our siblings' pockets right now. If you took a moment to read them, they say, I do not wish to speak with you, open the door, or sign or hand any documents until I speak with my lawyer. These little pieces of paper are shields. They're also dignity. They're the insistence that rights are not privileges granted, but powerful protections that we can claim together. And so if you think that this doesn't apply to you, if you think your citizenship or your skin color or your documentation status means you don't need to know things, then I'm asking you to learn them anyway. Learn them. Notice there's Spanish and Arabic. You can get these in any language. Learn them because your neighbor might need you to know. Learn them because the person sitting behind you might need you to know. Because love is both feeling and practice. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to know what the hell you're talking about when somebody else is really scared. And I want to be clear that paranoia is not what we're going for. Preparation is not paranoia. And readiness is not resignation. But knowing how to protect each other is not giving up on justice either. It is justice. This kind of readiness is competent and grounded in love, has deep roots in our history, and we're not inventing this from scratch, right? We're remembering learnings for the first time. It's something people have always known. You see, when Harriet Tubman said, "I never ran my train off the track and I never lost a passenger," she wasn't being a pessimist about slavery. She was being competent about freedom. She knew the routes. She knew the safe houses. She knew what to do when the dogs came, and that wasn't despair. That was love with its eyes open and its bags packed. You see, my friends, the Underground Railroad was the mutual aid network of its time. People who had never met each other, keeping each other alive, sharing food and shelter, sharing intelligence, and sharing risk. No one waiting for permission, no one waiting for convenience. People saying, "You are my people, and we're going to get each other through." And we're going to need that right now. We need networks of care that don't depend on institutions, because institutions are failing us. Systems that were never designed for our flourishing are taking over. And we need to know who has a spare room, who has medical training, who speaks a foreign language, who has a car, who can make bail, or knows a lawyer, or can cook for 20 people at the drop of a hat, who can watch the children and bear witness and hold grief. We need to know our neighbors. Do you know yours? Not in that polite way from the driveway where you wave, right? But in the way that you actually know their names. You know who among them are immunocompromised or undocumented, who's barely holding on financially, who's got kids with special needs or lives alone, who just lost their job. Because when things get hard, and they are hard, and they're going to get harder, it's the people around you on your block who will matter most. The institutions might not come. The cavalry won't arrive. But the people 3 doors down who has your phone number and knows you take your coffee black and remembers that your kid has a peanut allergy, that's the person who saves your life. And you can save theirs. It isn't about retreating into our little bunkers, right? It's about building this web of connection that's strong enough to hold us all. Here's the part I need you to hear. This isn't crisis management. This is how we were supposed to be living all along. Knowing our neighbors, sharing resources, protecting the vulnerable, and practicing solidarity. It isn't an emergency protocol. It's the actual texture of beloved community. It's what it means to be human on this fragile planet. We keep telling ourselves that isolation was okay, that it was normal, that not knowing our neighbor made us safe, that mutual aid is for disasters, not just for Tuesday. And that's the sickness, right? What we're being called to now is not a diminishment of how we're supposed to live. It's remembering how we're supposed to live. It's handing a card like this to a neighbor who may not speak English, but needs to know their rights, that you fear for, that you want kept safe. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. That line is ringing out, not just in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've heard it recorded all across the world. It's not a promise that everything will be fine, but it's a vow that we'll endure together, that we'll hold on to each other, that we'll hold on to what is good, and to our own stubborn, holy refusal to let cruelty have the last word. Because the dawn is coming. It always does. African-American sci-fi writer Octavia Butler knew something about holding on through the dark when she wrote, "There's nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns." There are new suns. Because we're not just waiting for the dawn, we're making it. Every act of mutual aid is a new sun. Every time you learn your rights and teach them to someone else, you're creating light. Every time you knock on your neighbor's door and say, "I'm here, what do you need?" you're a rising sun. Every network of care we build, every skill we share, every moment that we choose to connect over fearing that connection, we're not just surviving. We're becoming the dawn. And this is the work. Not to wait for someone else to save us, not for hope that institutions will suddenly start working. They haven't all along. Not to wish for anything to be different, but to build the world that we need by our own hands, in our own neighborhoods, with our own people right here. You want to know how to get ready? Be the sun. Burn with this kind of fierceness, a sustainable love that warms everyone in its radius. Shine in a way that helps other people see where we're going, and create that light multiple ways. Because suns don't diminish each other. They make constellations. Learn your rights, build your networks, know your neighbors, practice the skills of resilience and resistance and radical care. And also, breathe. Let yourself be held by this community even as you hold others. Rest. Come to the well and drink deep, because you can't pour from an empty cup, and the work is long and you are needed. we, the people, get ready. Not because we're guaranteed to win every battle, because instead, this is what love does. Love gets ready. Love learns and organizes. Love shows up. And love holds on. Because love creates new sons. Hold on. Hold on, my dear ones. Here comes the dawn. Hold on. Hold on, my dear ones. Here comes the dawn. Amen and Ashe. Blessed be.